Hello and welcome to Sarat Chandra IAS Academy, where your dreams are our mission. This is Yatharth here. Today we'll be discussing a static topic, which is dynamic right now, unfortunately, which is the Israel-Palestine conflict. Many people have lost their life in the ongoing war between the Israel and Palestine territories. So we'll see with the complete mapping and India's perspective upon this situation, as well as what has been the history of this. So let's begin with why this topic is in news. So the Palestinian militant group Hamas. So this has to be noted because it can be directly asked in prelims. Recently a question came on the Levant from geography. So launched an unprecedented assault on Israel on Saturday, that was in October 2023, with hundreds of gunmen infiltrating communities near the Gaza Strip. So we'll have to see where this Gaza Strip is geographically located. And how could the Hamas, which is a terrorist organization, launch an attack on Israel all of a sudden? Who helped this? So at least 900 Israelis are reported to have been killed, while dozens of soldiers and civilians, including women and children, are being held in Gaza as hostages. So these organizations may or may not have some demands. On the other hand, more than 700 Palestinians have also been killed in the hundreds of airstrikes on Gaza that Israel's military is carrying out in response. So Israel has given a stern response to all of these activities, and the conflict is under development as we talk. It is also massing its forces along the Gaza border, and Palestinians are bracing themselves for ground operation. So maybe the plan of Israel is to completely wipe out the Hamas and all related organizations working in this area. Let us see how we should look at this situation. So first of all, we'll see who are the Jews. The Jews are being talked about as the native residents of Israel. So we need to see who are the Jews and what is their history in order to conclude that what can be a good way forward for this situation. Secondly, we need to see who are the Palestinians and what is the territory of Palestine behold. After this, we'll see mapping will help us understand things in a geographic as well as chronological sense. So we'll see mapping from the ancient time till the modern context. So to begin with, we shall first map the present day boundaries that are in 2023 pre-conflict. Then move to how the present boundaries came into being in the first place and what phases or what chronology they went through. Then we'll see what's happening right now, along with which we'll see India's perspective on the situation and what lies in the future. Now coming to the mapping portion, we start with the Israel. So this is the country of Israel. Now it's surrounded by various Arab countries. Arab countries such as, beginning from the north clockwise, they are Lebanon. Then there is Syria, which you cannot see in the map right now. Then there lies Jordan on the other side of the Jordan River, followed by the Saudi Arabia, the Egypt, and to east of the Saudi Arabia lies Iraq, and so on. The Egypt lies to the west of Israel. There's a territory named the Sinai Peninsula, which belongs to the Egypt and is under administration of the Egypt. So in the map you can see various different parties to the conflict right now. This is Israel. So when we see this portion here, this is the Gaza Strip. It looks as a strip, but it is also in direct connection with the country of Egypt. It has a coastline to the Mediterranean Sea, and that's how it gets many of the travels and cargoes. This is the territory of Israel. This is the territory which is known as Palestine or the West Bank, which is under administration of Jordan, custody of Jordan. And here is the capital of Palestine, which is East Jerusalem. This is the site where the famous mosque of Al-Aqsa is located. And it's also a historical holy place for the Jews, way before the Al-Aqsa mosque was ever built, since around 1200 BC. So we'll see about this. This is the Red Sea, as you can see on the other side of Mediterranean Sea. And this is the Gulf of Aqaba. There's also a very narrow strait that the Egypt controls because of its custody of the Sinai Peninsula. This strait is known as the Strait of Tiran. This Strait of Tiran played a huge role in the Suez Canal crisis, which we'll be seeing further on. This is the Gulf of Suez, from where lies a very, very small canal known as the Suez Canal. We'll see, despite having a huge coastline already with the Mediterranean Sea on its one side, and the Red Sea directly, why Suez Canal is still important to the Israel. We'll also see the developments that have taken place over the years. Let's move on. So we need to see the history of Israel, basically, that how Israel came into the being. So the ancient Israelites originated roughly in the territory of modern Israel. That means they can be considered very native to the place. Also known as the ancient Levant or ancient Canaan, sometimes before 1000 BC. So we are talking about when the Vedic age was relevant in India, and many Iron Age Mahajanpads or kingdoms were being placed into India. At the same time, the kingdoms of Israel and Judah were built or were established in the modern territory of Israel. So Jews did not start using the word Jew as a way to identify themselves until after 500 BCE. Please remember, we are still talking 500 years before the Christianity came into being, and the Muslims came into being in 700 AD. So they were way later. So in the Hebrew Bible and the Torah, the Hebrew Bible and the Torah are the religious books of the Jew, the text that is more sacred to the Jews. The term used most often is the sons or daughter of Israel. Ne Yerusol or be not Yerusol. The term Israelites also appears along with the term Hebrews. So they have a very, very vast history, way before any sense of Christianity or Arab ever arrived in this area. So Jews can be considered the natives of Israel, living from there thousands of years ago from any other people. So the name Israel is first documented in the Marneba stele, an ancient Egyptian inscription dating to around 1200 BC. So we are talking 2000 years ago than the advent of the Islam in the area. So according to the modern archaeology, the Israelites are believed to have emerged from the Canaanites and developing a distinctive religious belief known as Yahwahism. So this Yahwahism is a new religion, but still it came way before than the Christianity or Islam both. This faith centered on the national god Yahweh and evolved from monolatry to monotheism. The Israelites spoke an early form of the Hebrew language, which was the regional variant of the Canaanite language, now referred to as the Biblical Hebrew. This language originated from the area of Egypt. During the Iron Age, which I have already talked about, the kingdoms of Israel and Judah were established. The kingdoms of Israel, with its capital in Samaria, was conquered by the Neo-Assyrian Empire in approximately 720 BC. Meanwhile, the kingdom of Judah, centered in the Jerusalem, was destroyed by the Neo-Babylonian Empire in 586 BC. So this is the short bit of history that we need to know about the Israel, about the native residents. So after the decline of the Jew regions, as they were conquered by other kingdoms, but it all happened around 600 BC or so. It's still 400 years before the Christianity came into being. Alright, so we should see who are the Jews, which now reside in the Israel. So Jews are the ethno-religious group with origins in ancient Hebrew or Israelites. So this we have already seen this part. Practicing the traditional religion of Judaism. Their ethnicity, religion and community are closely interrelated, and Judaism is considered an ethnic religion. Ethnic means something that is not only related to a certain book or text, but also related to the geography of that part, or which relates to the ethnicity. That means belonging to the certain race that emerges from the geography. The Jewish people trace their belongings to the Israelites, which established the Iron Age kingdoms of Israel and Judah. So we already have seen this part. Let us move further. So what happened to the Jewish diaspora in the future? It originating from events like the Babylonian captivity and Jewish-Roman wars led to wide dispersal of the Jewish communities worldwide. That means after their original kingdoms of the Israel were captured by another forces, they emigrated worldwide to various different places. Over the centuries, that means while their original place in Israel was being captured by various different powers, and they kept emigrating and spreading there. These communities coalesced into three major ethnic groups, that is Ashkenazim, Sephardim, and Mizraim. The global Jewish population reached 16.7 million before World War II. So, but what happened after the World War II? They were persecuted largely, and they wanted to return to their original kingdoms of the Israel under various different powers, which also became a matter of the international relations between various different power-brewing countries. So that is when the Zionist movement also started. We'll see about that. So the Holocaust, which was caused in Germany by the neo-Nazi Christian population, the Hitler was also a Protestant German Christian, which he called himself. So they believed in the Aryan race and the inferiority of the Jewish, which they called anti-Semitic. So they led to the systematic murder of approximately 6 million European Jews. So as of 2021, the Jewish population was estimated to be 15.2 to 19.9 million, with Israel as the only country where Jews form a majority. That means they returned to the Israel, which originally belonged to them, seeking a Jewish state. Let us also see on the other part who are Palestinians, because they are the second party to this war, or party B. So Palestinians are ethnically and culturally diverse group of people who primarily reside in the region of historical Palestine. The historical region of the Palestine came into being after the invasion of Islam in the Sinai Peninsula and the part which is now called Israel. So this was around 900 AD and so on. So they have a rich and complex history that spans thousands of years. Most are Sunni Muslims. So they are mostly Sunni Muslims, which had been converted either or came from other relative regions, maybe Egypt or Iraq and so on. In ancient books, the region of historical Palestine, which includes present-day Israel, the West Bank, the Gaza Strip, has been inhabited for thousands of years. Palestinians trace their roots to various indigenous communities who have lived the area for generations. These indigenous communities were possibly attacked and converted into Islamic populations when the attacks happened on the Israel in and around 900 AD or something. That was the same time when Muhammad Ghazni etc. came into India around 1000 AD, and tried to convert the Indian population, and various invaders took place. The Ottoman rule also ruled on the historical territories of Palestinians. So from the early 16th century, that means in around 1526 or something, when Babur was ruling India, until World War I, that is 1914 to 1919, the region was part of the Ottoman Empire. The diverse population included Arabs, Jews, and other ethnic groups. Let's move forward to see the geography at present. Just a second. Alright, so this is Iraq here, as I told you, which is in the north of the Saudi Arabia. This is Kuwait, Iran here. Iran is a major player in this game. Iran supports all Lebanon. Iran also supports the PLO and Hamas. And Iran is one of the powers that is in coalition with China, Russia, and the North Korea. So they are trying to create a terrorism hub in this entirety. This is the Lebanon. So there was a blast also in Lebanon, Beirut, very recently, with cause of which we remember Lebanon fondly. Just a second. All right. So what we see here is Lebanon is a breeding ground of Hamas. And from here only, the terrorists attack the Israel, and they can freely travel to the Gaza Strip here. This is Jordan. Jordan coalesces with the area of West Bank. This is Syria, which has been into conflict for many years now. Its capital is Damascus, and it has the area of their Golan Heights here. Alright, this is the Sinai Peninsula, which is under the custody of Egypt, and this is Egypt, which for the most portion in the history has been an Arab nation, Arab majority nation, and has acted very hostile towards the country of Israel. So these are all the players. There are also some players such as the Greece, the Italy, the France, which want their power high in the Mediterranean Sea and act in the coalition with Israel. So Israel acts as a military checkpost to many Western powers, such as the USA, the Britain, or the UK, then France, Germany, Italy, and Israel has also recently gained the trust of India and has been vastly supported by the Indian country. This is the present day mapping of how the attacks unfolded. So this is the Gaza Strip, which we can see here in line with the Mediterranean Sea. This is the territory of Israel. This is West Bank, and there is Golan Heights on the north here. This is in direct border with the Egypt. So the Hamas and the Palestinian terrorists attacked from this side. They even came approximately 5 kilometers inside the territory of Israel and took many hostages. There was a peace festival or a music festival being organized. So they killed many and took hostages many. They've also burned the territories, many in Israel. But Israel has retaliated enough in the Gaza also and now planning a ground operation. This is the territory of Jerusalem, which is one of the major points of conflict between the Jews and the Arabs. This is Tel Aviv, which is the capital of Israel. In this map here, you can see the Golan Heights, which Israel won from Syria in a war. Let's further move to the Israel's boundaries today. So this we have already seen. This is Syria, the Jordan here. This is Israel in line with the Red Sea. This is Egypt. This is Gaza Strip. This is Jerusalem, West Bank. The Tel Aviv is here. We have already seen this one, so let's move forward directly to the history of the conflict. So Jerusalem has been the scene of violent confrontations between the Jews. So we have already seen who are the Jews and who are the Arabs for 100 years and remains one of the most bitterly contested cities on earth. So why Jerusalem is the center point of the conflict despite the activities taking place mostly at Gaza Strip and Israel here. Alright, so we'll see why Jerusalem on the eastern end is rather the body of conflict. So Al-Aqsa Mosque is the third holiest site in Islam and sits on a sprawling plateau that is also home to the iconic Golden Dome of the Rock, which is worshipped by the Jews. So Muslims refer to the compound as the Noble Sanctuary. The walled plateau is also the holiest site for Jews, who refer to it as the Temple Mount, because it was the location of biblical temples. Romans destroyed the second temple in 70 AD, with only the western wall remaining. The mosque were built centuries later. So it is a common knowledge or common sense which can lead you to a conclusion that there was a place, there was a site that was being worshipped since thousands of years earlier or from 1200 BC and is being worshipped till now by a certain group. And all of a sudden, in the midst of all this, in 700 AD, some people start claiming the same site. So what can be this? A method to occupy it. Alright. So it can be seen here who was or has been the oppressant and who has been the oppressed. Alright, let's move on to the Ottoman Empire or the Usmani Sultanate. So this Sultanate or this empire took place in and around 1500 or early 16th century. It was a major player in the World War I. and had the territories extending up to Egypt, the North and the Eastern Africa, the Kingdom of Tunisia, the Turkey majorly. Its capital was Constantinople, and till the Turkey, major portion in the Europe, as well as the portions of Israel, present day Israel, and this was the time when Al-Aqsa Mosque was built as the third holiest place in the Islam, along with the Makkah and Medina. Alright. Moving forward, so the Ottoman Empire, historically and colloquially known as the Turkish Empire, was an empire that controlled much of the Southeast Europe, Western Asia, and Northern Africa between the 14th and 20th centuries. The empire also controlled an eastern regime or region of the Central Europe from 16th to the 17th century, and it was founded at the end of 13th century in northwest Anatolia. Anatolia is a plateau. The question has come from here. This plateau is where Turkey is located, by the Turkoman leader Osman I or Usman. On his name only, this empire is known as Usmania. So after 1354, the Ottomans crossed into Europe, and with the conquest of the Balkan region, the Ottoman Beylik was transferred into a transcontinental empire. The Ottomans ended the Byzantine Empire with the conquest of Constantinople in 1453 by Mehmed II. So Constantinople served as a major capital city of the Ottoman Empire because it was located right between the Asia and Europe. Here lied the Europe, and here lied the Asia, and here lied the Mediterranean Sea. So anybody can see how important this place was. There's a mosque named Hagia Al Sophia. It's also located there. So now we come to the end of the Ottoman Empire in the World War I. So during the World War I, the Ottoman Empire was one of the central powers along with Germany and Austria-Hungary. So it was along with the Nazis and played against the Allied powers. So Ottoman Empire in World War I. So at the outset of World War I, the Ottoman Empire formed an alliance with Germany, Austria-Hungary, and entered the war on the side of the Central Powers in 1914. The Ottoman Empire involved in the war led to a series of military campaigns, including battles on multiple fronts, such as the Sinai Peninsula and the Palestinian Front, the Caucasus Front, and the Gallipoli Campaign. So at the end of the war, the Ottoman Empire completely collapsed because it was just so big, it was almost impossible to manage it militarily. So in 1917, the British forces under General Allenby launched an offensive on the region of Palestine and captured key cities like Jerusalem and later Damascus, which belonged to the Syria. Alright, so there was a military chronology which you can see that earlier this was with Jews, later on with the Roman and Byzantine empires, upon then conquered by the Arabs, and upon then conquered by the British. So regardless of the question that the area belongs to the Arabs or the Jews, we'll come to the answer that if we see just with the means of occupation without any force, just if we depend on the time, then the area belongs to Jews 100%. But if we see militarily, then we come to the conclusion that the area belongs to who can wield the power. We cannot say the area belongs to Jews or the Arabs or the British. It is just that who militarily wins the area belongs to them. And that has been the general rule of the time. Now we come to the Balfour Declaration. So in 1970, the British government issued the Balfour Declaration, which expressed support for the re-establishment of a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. So British had to eventually leave this area as a colony, and they applied some brains to who should now administer this area. So because of their regional goals, their strategic importance of this area, they wanted the Jews to return to this area and a national home for the Jews in the Palestine. So this declaration reflected British policy and marked a key development in the eventual creation of Israel. This all was followed by a Treaty of the Sèvres, which took in 1920. So in the aftermath of World War I, the Ottoman Empire signed the Treaty of Sèvres with the Allied powers in 1920. This treaty aimed to partition the Ottoman territories. So this was the time when Turkey became an independent nation. The treaty proposed the international administration of city of Jerusalem and establishment of a greater Syria, including the Palestine. Followed by the Turkish War of Independence. So Turkish nationalist forces led by Mustafa Kemal Atatürk resisted the terms of Treaty of Sèvres and fought for establishment of a modern Turkish state. So this is when the Turkey came into being. The Turkish War of Independence led to the signing of Turkey Treaty of Lesson, which replaced the Treaty of Savaries. According to this treaty, the Republic of Turkey came into being. Further on, British mandate for Palestine. So after World War I, the League of Nations was established, and it granted Britain a mandate to govern Palestine, which included modern-day Israel, the West Bank, and Gaza. So in the next lecture, we'll see what happened when British got the responsibility, how did it wash its hand off the mandate, and how the UN governed this matter, what led to the current circumstances. So that I'll be teaching you in the next lecture. I hope you liked this lecture. Keep on with the next part. Thank you very much.